Today, we will begin class by reviewing what we have learned about the events leading up to the American Revolution. Causes of the American Revolution. The primary complaint of the colonies against the British government was taxation without representation. Remember that the colonies were denied representation in Parliament. Any laws passed by the British during this time were passed without the governing consent of the colonists living in North America. Below are some of the taxes and laws imposed by the British on the colonists that led to the colonists to seek independence. The Sugar Act of 1764 placed a tax on sugar, wine, and coffee. It was created to generate revenue for the British Parliament. You'll remember that Great Britain was more or less broke from the war debts due to the French and Indian War. The Stamp Act. The British Parliament passed the Stamp Act in 1765 to raise revenue to pay a share of the empire's defense costs. The Stamp Act required the colonists to use specifically stamped paper for all official documents, newspapers, and pamphlets. It angered many colonists who regarded it as a violation of the right of British subjects not to be taxed without representation. Riots broke out in colonial cities, and American merchants pledged not to buy British goods. You'll remember that that's called a boycott. Parliament repealed the Stamp Act in March of 1766, yielding to the demands of economically depressed British merchants. Townshend Act. In 1767, Parliament passed the Townshend Acts, which imposed taxes on lead, glass, tea, paint, and paper imported by Americans from Britain. Once again, the colonists protested vigorously and boycotted British goods. In 1770, a riot occurred between British troops and the citizens of Boston. The troops fired, killing 5 people in the incident known as the Boston Massacre. Tea Act. In 1773, Parliament passed the Tea Act, reducing the tax on tea in an attempt to rescue the British East India Company from bankruptcy. The colonists refused to buy British tea and would not permit British ships to unload it in Philadelphia and New York City. In Boston, in the incident known as the Boston Tea Party, a group of colonists dressed as Mohawk Indians dumped cargoes of tea from British ships into Boston Harbor. When the government of Boston refused to pay for the tea, the British closed the port. In retaliation, Parliament passed the Coercive Acts in 1774, called the Intolerable Acts by the colonists, which were designed to punish Massachusetts and demonstrate Parliament's sovereignty. Now, we will examine Lesson 3.3, and we will begin today's picture notes.